on it if you want to be quick on it. You don't have to use your life.
On record.
Welcome to the Lincoln City Urban Renewal Agency meeting of November 9th, 2015. Let's have a roll call, please.
Roger Sprague.
Here.
Don Williams.
Here.
Dick Anderson.
Here.
Chester Norikis.
Here.
Wes Ryan.
Here.
Kip Ward.
Here.
And Susan Walke. Here.
Do we have any citizens present who would like to address the council on urban renewal agency matters? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next item, which is we don't have any minutes, so that doesn't mean we haven't got minutes. It means we don't have them printed. Next item is the public hearing, or it's actually a public comment on the supplemental budget for resolution number Urban Renewal 2015-2, a resolution adopting the supplemental budget on the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Lincoln City, Oregon, for the fiscal year 2015-16, as approved by the agency and making appropriations. Debbie.
Good evening. Just for clarification, we are required to do an official public hearing on this, as opposed to sometimes we just do public comments when it's not required. We have 2 or 3 items that we're requesting a change to the urban renewal budget for this fiscal year. The first item is for $41,317. It's money for the restoration and repair of the basement of the Cultural Center after a water main break. Now, this is being funded by, or being reimbursed by our insurance company, CIS. Less than $1,000 deductible, but the way our accounting works, the reimbursement goes into the revenue and the expense goes into expense, so it creates a budget overage if you don't change the budget to accommodate that. So $1,000 change to fund balance is all there is on that one. The second item, the Urban Renewal Agency is participating in a project with the city for sidewalk construction at Highway 101 and 22nd. This project was budgeted for in the last fiscal year, but it was not. I think they maybe just started it at the end of the year, but they didn't incur any expenses. And so this request is just to roll those monies over from last year into this year.
How much is that for?
$113,000. And that, of course, comes from the beginning fund balance because it wasn't spent last year.
And that's North 22nd, Debbie?
I'm not sure.
It's North 26th.
Okay. Sorry. And the last item is for $44,345. Again, this is a request for some funding for Roads in South Pump Station engineering and the Salase Pump Station. And it is also funded by our beginning fund balance being higher than what we had budgeted for. And those are our 3 items.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Mr. Ward.
Oh, did you? Go ahead, Kip.
Do you know what the total cost on that Salase pump is going to be?
I do not. My understanding is they haven't started that project, and Lila maybe has some information.
Better come forward.
Good evening. I don't have that exact number, but that's going to be force main line and gravity line. So we're designing the Roads in South Pump Station and upgrading that first, and then next year we'll come forward with the Salase project. And so what we're doing right now is surveying, figuring out where that pump station will go, and then I can't remember how much it is, but I'm sure it's probably close to $1 million by the time we do the pipe and the pump station.
I thought I read $1.2 million. Was that wrong?
Yeah, probably. I don't have that number in front of me, so that's an estimate.
So I guess I don't even know if you're the right person to ask. I'm going to ask you anyway.
Okay.
Why are we building that station?
That That would serve the backside of the Villages project. Our sewer line goes just past Fernwood to gravity back to the West Devils Lake Road Pump Station, and so to do anything on the other side, further to the west and north, you would have to have that pump station in place. And so right now, we're looking at location for it.
So how long do you think you'll be before you need that pump station?
I'm sure, a couple years out. Kurt may have a better estimate of that, but I think 2 to 3 years. So we're just in the preliminary look at where it would go.
So we're going to have to sell the houses or the Fernwood first, correct? We're going to do that, and then we'll start on the other side.
I would imagine that's how it's going to go.
It could be quite some time.
It could be.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, I don't know if you're the policymaker. Maybe we are. Huh? But why would we build a pump station just to let it sit for years?
Well, we're not going to build it right away. We're trying to look at the preliminary location and where it would go.
Okay.
And how that would be designed.
All right. I mean,
so we're not doing too much at this point,
other
than upgrading the roads in South Pump Station, which needed to be upgraded anyway.
I'm not trying not to be argumentative. I'm just trying to get my questions.
I
just saw $1.2 million or something in the budget, and if we're not going to spend it this year, why are we keeping that in the budget?
I don't know that that's actually in the budget.
Or in the
25th. It might be in some projections.
Projections,
It's in projections, and so council will definitely weigh in on that.
Okay.
But we have to have some preliminary things to show you. So, and we also have 3 lots on Salisbury that we're looking at the best location for that pump station, so that we can designate one of those lots, because there'll be 3 other lots that could be sold.
Yeah. So you understand my concern. I'm just concerned that it sits there year after year, and it's not like fine wine. It's not going to get any better as it sits.
Right. It's like putting in an extra pump when you don't need it for a long time.
Yeah, particularly when urban renewal's got other things. Anyway. Okay.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Because I'm kind of coming late to the game on many of these discussions, the Cultural Center, does the city own that building?
Yes.
Okay, so we are leasing it to the Cultural Center. No?
Urban Renewal owns
Urban
it.
Renewal owns the Cultural Center. Okay. And so then any damage from any fire, we are liable for in our lease. Is that right? With them? So if any, I just want to find out who should be liable for this amount of money.
Well, I assume if our insurance company is paying for it, then, yeah.
I understand, yeah, so
They're not gonna
that's
pay
in
for it,
our
we're not
lease
liable.
or in your lease, Urban Renewal's lease with the Cultural Center, that we will pay for those damages on failure of those things.
Well, you pointed to me, but it's the agency's lease with the Cultural Center, yes.
Oh, okay, I'll point to us.
It's a building owned by the agency, and this type of a loss is covered by our insurance.
Okay, and then that
So
was...
they're paying the cost of those repairs.
Okay, but we're only asking for $1,000, is that...
We're going to spend $41,000, and then we'll get $40,000 from CIS. So the ending net impact to us is $1,000.
That's the deductible, $1,000 deductible.
And then, because I've learned some things about CIS and the process of the ethics inquiry, that they have a limit to how much they'll give us as a total for our body. Is there a limitation on our insurance with them for repairs and things?
No. Only up to the policy limit that's shown in the policy.
Okay. And we're nowhere near that right now, because we had to repair a wall, and I just want to know where we're at insurance-wise with repairs and things.
I don't know that number.
It's my understanding that this is the only claim that we've had
Okay.
on that building. I mean, recently, the wall wasn't part of that.
It was not part of that. Okay. That's why
It wasn't an insurance claim.
there's a lot of pieces to this puzzle. I just want to make sure. So we're really just looking for $1,000. The insurance is going to pay back the $40,000. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just a clarification, we're not looking for anything, are we? this is a budget, supplemental budget, we're just moving money around. Money comes in from the insurance company on the claim, and we just need to put it to the right line item?
Yes, except that there is a $1,000 deductible, so
Except for-
that we
right.
are paying.
Right. Okay. But this is money in, money to a line item. Right, okay. That's the supplementary budget.
It's called creative bookkeeping.
Right.
Hey, we're following the rules.
So,
Ms. Walker?
oh, I'm sorry.
I had a question, and I don't know if this is for Mr. Chandler or Mr. Olson. Once again, I'm confused looking at this agenda packet electronically. Are pages 3 and 4 the same as 5 and 6? Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Moving to the sidewalks, just checking to make sure I understand it right. What we ended up with was a higher beginning balance in this account in 2015-16 than what you had budgeted.
Yes.
And so you're just moving that excess into the sidewalks for this project.
Yes, back last March or so, when departments were doing their budget, it had been estimated that this would have been completed by the end of June, and that didn't happen.
So once again, and I think I know the answer, but I just a point. Since this project was already approved, funded, and authorized by this agency, and now you're doing the cleanup, correct? Politely, with money,
We're
making sure
adjusting
the
the
money's
budget.
in the right place, because it's all paid and done. So the question being really is, isn't this another one where when the project was brought to the agency to do, we should have at that time made the supplemental budget? And I think that's what we
I believe that would be correct.
So maybe in the future, to avoid this even us having to discuss whether the project was a good project or not, or even implying, because it's done and gone and needs to be paid for, if the money would have traveled with the project approval at the time, we'd be on. Okay. That's how I'm reading.
The project was presented
Right.
and approved at one point in time. It's just a timing issue.
Right.
Other questions?
Please.
Mr. Williams?
Just again, my apologies for not quite understanding the scenario here, is urban renewal and pump stations. I'm trying to figure out, is that urban renewal's job? I'm looking at the Urban Renewal Agency website. It says the agency's mission is to eliminate blight and depreciating property values in areas within the agency's jurisdiction, and in the process attract job-producing private investment that will improve property values, improve the area's visual quality, and establish a positive linkage between the area and the Pacific Ocean. I don't know how pump stations fit into that mission.
Yeah, that's the general mission and goals of the agency, and beyond that, there are 19 projects that the agency lists as projects that can be accomplished. When you create a district, you can create any kind of projects that address those issues that you want, and Lincoln City chose our group of projects, and one of them is stormwater, sidewalks, sewer lines, water lines, public works infrastructure.
Can you direct me to where I would find that
Sure.
information? Because I could not find it.
Okay, so probably right on the website, if you're in the city's website, I think that our year 2000 development plan, that is our document that we use. It was developed in 1988. We've done a couple amendments to it. The only change that we've ever done to it as far as what our projects are was in 2009 when we added economic development as one of those projects.
I'm sorry, that last part again?
In 2009 was the only time we've ever altered what projects we can do, and we added economic development as the number 19th project.
Okay.
Some of those projects are very specific, like build a park at Siletz Bay, and some of them are very general, like build sidewalks.
Okay, I may have to revisit it, because this was all that I found under the goals 2000, and there's not 19, there's just this. And again, I don't see pump stations
Okay.
listed. And so if you could
We'll
refer me
get
to that, I would
and
be,
point that out. Yep.
Thank
You
you.
betcha.
I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, not to belabor, but I'm going to, what we're talking about is infrastructure for development, economic development. So by putting in pump stations, it makes this land much more available for future development. And that being the role of urban renewal, one of the many roles of urban renewal. Would you not agree?
Correct. I think what you'd find, and we certainly strive for this, is that the projects that we do are more upgrade-type projects so that capacity can be built upon rather than maintenance. Even the
Right.
projects that we specifically build, we turn over the maintenance to the city of Lincoln City.
So again, why this agency recently expanded its border territory and extended itself was to bring infrastructure to the north end of town to make the land there much more developable, if that's a word, and thus it's a natural input for urban renewal. So I think Mr. Ward's question on the pump on South Road's End, is that limited, does that pump just impact the villages, or is that another part of town in that north end as well, other properties?
I may have to bring Lila back for that,
Yeah.
but there are two pump stations in Road's End. One is in the middle of Road's End, and it pumps to the Road's End south. And that begins our system. And then from Road's End south, it goes to Wacoma Beach. So it goes past the casino property into Wacoma Beach. So as I understand, the upgrade that's happening at the south pump station isn't to provide any more infrastructure ability to Road's End. I don't know that they're, it's fairly built out, and I don't know what isn't built out, couldn't be built out with what's there. But it's to facilitate adding Salasee, a new pump station, to it that will service some of the areas of Cascade Head. I'm not sure if it services Lincoln Palisades or not.
Okay. So it's for the future growth of that whole area, and it needs these two pump stations. Am I counting on that, two pump stations?
Well, we're upgrading an existing pump station on 50th, and then the Salasee would be a brand-new pump station, small pump station.
Okay, and both
And
need
the
to be-
lines that have to go from that pump station to
Right.
the other pump station on 50th.
And this is the engineering aspect only that we're doing the supplemental
Right.
budget?
Right, we're doing the design of the South 50th pump station, and then it included some survey work for Salasee, so we could come up with some preliminary plans for that.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions?
I do. Mr. Olson, how long do you think it's going to be before the Salasee pump station comes online or will be needed online?
I'm not able to tell you what properties in Lincoln Palisades that it services. I don't think I've been in any meetings that have had any discussions about that property being, we talked about selling that property for development. So I have no idea.
Other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, we have a resolution before us, a resolution number Urban Renewal 2015-2.
Mr. Chairman, I think we need to do a public hearing, so you need to call
There's public comment.
any public, well, yeah, according to Debbie's public hearing,
Oh, okay.
so we need to see if anybody is,
I was told it was a public comment this time. You want a public hearing this time? Okay, I don't have a script for the public hearing, and I think there's a
Just
script
open it.
required. Isn't there? Mr. Attorney?
Well, you can open the public hearing and call for public comment
Okay,
as a public hearing.
I will do that. We will now have a public hearing open. Is there any public comment? Hearing none.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. Okay, now we're at the resolution. Resolution number Urban Renewal 2015-2, a resolution adopting the supplemental budget of the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Lincoln City, Oregon for the fiscal year 2015-16 as approved by the agency and making appropriations. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve Resolution UR 2015-02, adopting the supplemental budget for fiscal year 2015-16.
Is there a second?
I second it.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Sprague.
Yes.
Walke.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Williams.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Norikis.
Yes.
And Ryan.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we have a special order of business. We have a presentation on the gap analysis that has been going on.
With the recent changes in the lighting, we're going to see if this PowerPoint can be shown without having to dim all the lights and stuff. If it doesn't, let us know and we will make those changes.
You've got a chair over there that's got that screen kind of whopper-jawed. Thank you.
So a recurring topic of discussion with both the Urban Renewal Agency and the city is economic development through business retention, recruitment, and diversification. There are a number of entities that work in this arena: the Lincoln County Economic Development Alliance, the Small Business Development Center, the Chamber of Commerce, the City of Lincoln City through its efforts with Community Development and Public Works Department, and more recently, the Urban Renewal Agency. The agency commissioned an analysis of which business sectors we were lacking, and of those, which ones might be the most likely to succeed if we were able to get them to locate to Lincoln City. In addition to the analysis tools that the consulting team had available to them, we also had a series of meetings that 28 people from various business sectors in Lincoln City came to. The report that they produced, which you have in your packet, suggests that a good study for business recruitment would be to target businesses that support the three major industries in our tourist economy: accommodations, food service, and retail. The focus groups recommended potential recruitment targets as businesses that supply goods to those industries are probably the ones that are going to be most likely to succeed, which goes along with my toilet paper theory that some of you have heard over the years, is that if we have all of these motels in town that are using all of this toilet paper, why don't we have a toilet paper warehouse in town instead of driving over here every day with loads of toilet paper to supply our motels? So that's just sort of a kind of an anecdotal thought, but that's the way it sort of went. Was we don't have a laundry facility. All these people are doing their own laundry, or they're sending it to Newport, those sorts of things. And so the other one was that came up was like United Grocers. How many businesses in town drive to Newport every single day to United Grocers to buy stuff for their restaurants or for their motels? The goal of this project to commission this study wasn't really to suggest that the agency or the city take a leading role in this effort, but to provide the specific targeted information to those in Lincoln City that might have a role and play a part in retention or recruitment or diversification. We presented this. There is a small group, as many of you know, of economic development professionals here in town that meet on a regular basis. We presented this analysis to them. In fact, it sort of initiated out of that group, because a lot of these discussions take place in that group, and then we get to that point, well, who do we go after? So we said we would commission this study. And so we've taken it to them. They've taken a look at it, and they've already presented there's been a proposal, a joint proposal from the Chamber and from the Alliance, Lincoln County Economic Development Alliance, that I got just tonight at this meeting. So we haven't had a chance to look at it, but a proposal of how they may be able to partner or take advantage of this information and come up with some ideas to move it forward. So that's kind of encouraging. As the study progressed, it seemed like the questions started coming up more and more. Not only, well, what do we do in the future, but what's the role of the Urban Renewal Agency in economic development, and what's the role of the city in economic development in the future? So that's where we are at this point. I know Mr. Chandler has some thoughts that he might want to share with you, but the most important was we wanted to facilitate a conversation about the report itself, answer any questions that we can, and then maybe ask that question: is this something that the agency wants to move forward on in some way, or is it something that maybe perhaps the agency might want to just? I know it's kind of interesting in that you're also the city council, but you may want to forward this information to the city council, and maybe the city wants to act on doing more in the field of economic development. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Chandler if he wishes.
Yeah, there's, as Mr. Olson mentioned, there's some big policy questions that need to come before you. We wanted to simply introduce them to you today, not necessarily for you to answer any of these questions. Some of these policy questions, you're entering a different realm than what we have done in the past. Our economic development policies and the practices in the past have been tourist-oriented, which has been the VCB, and then urban renewal has had some loan programs and some grant programs and things like this. With this gap analysis, you're entering into the more traditional economic development practices, and that is the going out and trying to recruit or expand businesses in your community. And so some of the questions that you, as the Urban Renewal Board, or you, as the City Council, with your other hat on, is, first of all, what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish? Is it the creation of jobs? And if so, is it what type of jobs are you interested in creating? Is it to increase the wage rate of types of jobs, or is it just simply the creation of jobs? Who will take the lead in this activity? Is it something that we will just be a partner with other organizations to do that, or is it something that the Urban Renewal Agency or the city will actively work on, where you're having employees that are going out and creating the pro formas and gathering the demographic information so that you can begin to identify the types of businesses that are discussed in the gap analysis, and then actually going out and actively recruiting. Another really big policy question is that anytime that you get into this traditional type of economic development, incentives always comes up. And so one of the questions that would be faced before you is that, are you willing to provide incentives to businesses to locate here or to expand? And what would those types of incentives be? Another one that the gap analysis brings up is that their recommendation is that you don't compete with existing businesses because of the effect that can have on that competition. So all of those are policy discussions that you, as the Urban Renewal Board, or you as the City Council, when you wear that hat, need to discuss. And we just wanted to bring those forward to you tonight, just as an introduction. And to use it as a later discussion in an urban renewal meeting where we can explore it a little bit more in depth.
Okay. Do you have more to show us?
No. Well, not in this subject.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any more slides on this subject, no.
As you and I discussed before the meeting, I was wondering if it wouldn't be worthwhile to have the gap analysis that we received in the packet in a PowerPoint that was presented by the organization that did that work for us. And that way the public then has an opportunity to view that along with us.
You're suggesting perhaps a work session where that would be able to provide some give and take? I
was just thinking that they could do it in the regular city council meeting. It's just an agenda item.
Okay. I like the idea, Mr. Chairman, of visiting with the folks who pulled it together, because, it raised some questions, and I think that would be a good time. I don't know what, I guess I'm struggling with the desire to have the broader public also have an opportunity where they would to visit or ask a question or two. That's
in a work session or a workshop session, they would not have, but in the council meeting, they would have an opportunity, because usually our work sessions are for the participants of the workshop only. Well, unless we wanted to change that.
Yeah, you could take. So.
I'm open to that. I just think that the more we can show the public, the better. And I think this is really an interesting enough topic that it would be worth doing a type of workshop with the public involved.
And Mr. Chairman, yes, my question with that would be, if we invite these consultants back, would we have to pay them again? Or is this included in their fee to come and present to us and explain the findings?
Yeah, I believe it was included in their fee. Okay. I do. Yes.
All right. Well, I would be in favor of that then, as long as we don't have to pay them twice. I'm kind of, I do have one question. I don't know whether you can answer it or not. The mining statistic is listed as an underrepresented. Would that include quarry? Or are we strictly talking about extracting ore from the ground and things like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of those things. There were a lot of questions I had in there that when we would talk it over with the consultant, and things got a little wonky, after a while. And so I was focusing more on the final results of the study rather than how they got there, knowing that if you were interested in that information, they were willing to come down.
Well, my question just follows is, they bothered to list it. Yeah. And does it even exist? Is
exactly.
it even?
I think
how did they come up with that?
I think the number one thing we were lacking on there was an airport too, on that list, or on the second.
Right, but we can agree that we have an airport, or that we need an airport. I'm just, when we say
it wasn't likely to succeed. A full-on airport was not likely to succeed. So those are the things that I think that they came. That list is a list of general areas that they explore. But then when they narrowed it down to the things that are likely to succeed and really benefit our economy, then they're not considered.
Is there a consensus that we would like to go ahead with the workshop?
Mr. Chair.
Brian?
The one thing that would be helpful before we did that, and I don't know, I'm sure you can get it from planning or whoever. There's a number of things that they talked about, which would be, for instance, light industrial. It would be nice to know exactly how much light industrial land there is that's not already occupied. The same way with commercial. I mean, they've talked about several large commercial things. Do we have enough large commercial lots to do anything with that, or I mean, why spin our wheels saying that we want such and such, and we don't have the ability to have that, I mean, why concentrate on something like that? Like the mining, I agree. I mean, there's no ore around here. The only thing that you could mine for is sand or rock. So is that really a viable, I mean, we have two or three rock companies, so is that a viable thing to even pursue? I mean, I think before you have a workshop, you need to have some background on what kind of stuff is available. We've gone through these, on the Planning Commission when we did the year 2000 plan, and then when, so on. We went through a lot of this stuff and said, yeah, it would be really nice to have this, this, and this, but, oh, God, we don't have the land. Or we don't have enough flat land, or we don't have a highway, we don't have a railhead, we don't have an airport. So it gives you a better idea of what you can pursue as opposed to let's just, oh, wow, let's zero in on this, and there's not a chance in flaming whatever, that you're ever going to get it because you don't have the facilities that particular thing would require.
My thinking about that was that the report itself raises a lot of questions, and that this would be an opportunity for not only us, but then with the public to be able to answer those questions. And then if we find out that there's something that we really want to look at, now we can go ahead and go forward to see if it's feasible.
And I think we could also, Mr. Chair, I think we could also have an open work session where we had the consultants or whoever talk about it and invite the public to be participants. I think we could accomplish that, and I would rather do it that way than in a council meeting, which then we have 23 other things that we're trying to rush to get done. I just think it might be a little bit better practice to do it that way, if we can.
Okay.
And, Mr. Chairman, I guess if I'm hearing you right, because I'm agreeing with the conclusion, is my concern is, as you've stated, this report raised questions to not the validity of the report, but it raised enough questions. I'd like to talk to the authors to see how the stuff was tested. Is it really true? Before we even worry about how much is zoned or not zoned or this kind of stuff. So some kind of forum to test the author. And then I think Mr. Chandler's comments of kind of those policy decisions makes a lot of sense. I think we'll end up is we don't want to touch it. We want somebody else to anyway. So it'll be a matter of who do we want to partner with. But right now, I'd like to make sure we got what we ordered.
Ms. Walkie?
I had a concern. The report addresses zip codes 97367 and 97364, but in particular, construction was not represented highly on this table. And I think a lot of warehousing, construction, you might find those businesses in 97368. And I'm wondering if maybe the county economic alliance might be able to supply us with some of that information prior to the workshop.
Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Williams?
I've become a big fan of the process we've used in a couple of programs here, the transportation program and the gap analysis, or when we had the public come in and say, here's what I like, here's what I don't like. And I like the idea that Mr. Ryan brought up was, well, maybe we just need to say, don't even vote on these things because they're not even feasible. We're not going to have a mining operation here, so don't even put it up as a choice to discuss. And I think, if I'm gathering, that's your point, is we do need someone to say, this is never even going to happen in Lincoln City, so why waste our time? And then present it to the public to say, hey, what do you think about these things that we're going to talk about? Then we can have our workshop, and not to belabor stuff, but I've really enjoyed those processes that we've gone through, and I think the public is more on board that way. So, my thoughts.
Other comments? I think we need to schedule a workshop.
Okay, we'll do that. And it sounded like you wanted it as a city council workshop.
You'll need to work with Mr. Chandler so that we can kind of find dates that we don't have city council workshops at the same time.
I know where he works. And I do have more to present, however. And it didn't make it on the agenda specifically, but at the last meeting, it was brought up to, a request was brought forward to talk about the properties that the Urban Renewal Agency owns for possible development. So I am prepared to provide that.
Okay.
And with so the agency has 4 parcels that were purchased specifically with development in mind. The first one that we'll talk about, we'll just go from north to south, is the property on the lot. City owns a lot on Northwest 15th Street. This is to the left-hand side of the slide is the beach access down to the beach to orient users there. The street improvements were completed to Northwest 15th Street to further the long-range vision for the street, which was to increase the opportunity for some more commercial development along that street. In 2012, the agency was awarded a grant to assist with some preliminary assessment of what a public-private partnership might be able, that would be viable on that street. So this was some of the initial drawings that came out of that project, and this was a conceptual design of a project that would fit. The biggest constraint on a property this size, which is a 100 by 100 lot, is parking. You can build a lot of stuff, but the parking requirements dictate how big you can actually have it or what you could have there. So this is the first property in Northwest 15th Street. The next piece of property is in the D-Lake area, and this site was once a very vibrant area, as some of you may remember from your childhood days. There was all kinds of activities in this location, including across the street. There was actually a boatworks, Calkins Marine and Boatworks. At one time, there was an unsuccessful development proposal for this property, a hotel development. It was going to be elevated on the site with parking underneath, but it never happened, and so the agency stepped in, and actually it was a partnership with the city, the Urban Renewal Agency, and Devils Lake Water Improvement District to purchase the site. The square to the right-hand side of the picture was purchased as open space, and the rest was purchased with a partnership between Devils Lake Water Improvement District because they needed access to their dam facility and the Urban Renewal Agency. It was always intended that the agency would develop this property at one point in time along the highway. There would be an opportunity for some sort of development that would be at grade at the sidewalk, and then perhaps some parking or something underneath it on the backside. The next piece of property is in Nelscott, and that's the property that's left over after Southeast 32nd Street is aligned. We now know what the size and nature of that property is going to be now that the street's in. We were never really sure. We always sort of have an idea, but we weren't exactly sure what was going to be left after the ODOT project went through. And although it's not a very big site, we believe that something very complementary to Nelscott could be put in there. And we've, in the past, taken a look at that. The property was originally purchased for the relocation of the street, and then at one point in time, many years ago, it was decided that we weren't going to relocate the street, and so the property was sold back to the original property owners, portions of it, and then the decision was remade to change the street. So we purchased it all back again. So in the process, we had an idea, well, what could we possibly do with that site? So this is sort of what it looks like today. So the area that we're looking at that could be built on is the area where those trees are standing, and probably some excavation to the right-hand side of the screen. We looked at the site years ago. In fact, we looked at developing the entire site, and we had drawings for that. And then about that time, it was realized, oh, well, we're going to run a street through there instead now. So we went back to the developer, or to the consultant, and said, well, if we had a street through there, what would be left and what possibly could be done with the site there? So what it shows is the purple on the left-hand side is about 4,000 square feet of commercial space. Could be 2 floors with a restaurant. Could be living space above. Then the more orangey part, the one in the middle would be parking, and then on to the left it is possible to do some additional parking or to do some other sort of commercial retail building.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry. Kurt, if I could, you said purple on the left, and I see, in my eyes, I'm seeing 3 purples.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what you're talking about. Okay, so not the purple on the far left.
So that one is the one that's on the highway.
Thank you.
And so that makes the most sense for redevelopment, obviously. It's the most visible. And then parking behind that, but there's room probably for more parking, and there's probably an opportunity to do some sort of mixed-use project with some maybe live-work units or something on that site as well. In addition, there's probably an opportunity to create even more parking in that area because, as you know, where 32nd Street was, it's still public right-of-way, And that area, they've taken the asphalt out, they planted it in trees. That area probably could be more parking could be created in that area. So let's see if I have some more on this. Yeah. So there's kind of a conceptual drawing of what a multi-floor development might look like on that site and how it might complement the character of Nelscott. You can also access that property from Dune Street up above. The fourth piece of property, last piece of property, is on the end of 51st Street. There was a motel project proposed here a number of years ago, and then that didn't take place, and the property owner wanted to sell it, and the agency stepped in to purchase it. It was about the time that the Taft redevelopment plan was being developed, and it was thought that the possibility of relocating some sort of educational facility that we envisioned as calling the Oregon Coast Weather and Tsunami Center was being seriously considered. The agency since has assembled a couple of other pieces of property, and we commissioned a redevelopment market study, and a project of this sort could potentially stimulate redevelopment of the rest of 51st Street. It's probably one of our most economic viable areas in town, and we've spent a lot of money in the Taft area, and there have been things that have happened there. Certainly, especially if you go along Highway 101, almost every building on Highway 101 has been upgraded either with the Urban Renewal Facade Program or with private funding. There are some key properties along 51st Street that they're fairly large, and if they were to redevelop, it could certainly change the complexion of that area. So all indications seem to be that the economy is improving enough to where redevelopment of these projects probably should start being considered in the next 5 years or so. The studies that we've had done most recently, recently, there really been, I think that one was done in 2009, and so it was right in the middle of things probably weren't going to sell at a reasonable sale price, so the recommendation was to hold on to them until that turned around. It seems like things are turning around now. So those are the 4 pieces of property that we've bought that we always intended to buy for redevelopment. In addition, though, I wanted to just throw out the thought that there are a lot of parcels that we also own that we consider to be land banked, and which means we've built a parking lot, for example, on a piece of property, and that there may be a higher and better use for that piece of property, and when that comes along, we should be open to developing that property or working as a private-public partnership or selling the property. Just as an example, this 17th Street parking lot, it certainly serves a huge purpose as a parking lot, but right behind it is a trailer mobile home park, and if someone was to come in and buy that mobile home park and wanted to do a development and it included that much public parking, we'd certainly want their development to be at the street and not back there a half a block. So these slides will go pretty fast, and I don't mean for you to try to dissect exactly where they are, but just to know that they're out there and that we should consider that as the agency. So this is the 17th Street parking lot. That's what it looks like. We also have the community garden site at 21st Street. We have the area where the old police station was behind the Bijou Theater. It's a parking lot. There's Southeast 3rd Street behind, I believe it's called the New Mexico restaurant now. This property may actually not be owned by the Urban Renewal Agency, but it's right on the canal of the lake. It may be much more valuable as a condominium site or some sort of housing development than it is for a parking lot in that location. We have the Nelscott property, the rest of the Nelscott property that we own. We do have the opportunity to possibly subdivide a small lot off of that piece of property, but it wasn't a popular idea from this agency not too long ago, so it's probably not going to happen, but we did use it for building that parking lot that was recently built, and we're getting ready to do the final addition to that. Then we have the parking lot behind Ace Hardware, and as you know, that may now actually be a great place that may fulfill its function that it was built for in anticipation of purchasing the school property. And then on 51st Street is the parking lot back there, half a block on 51st Street. So I did want to just then mention that when we do move forward with the development proposal, it may be a land sale agreement or maybe just a land lease arrangement like we have with some properties, and both have their advantages. Land sales puts a property in private ownership. It may generate some income from the sale if the sale price isn't used as an incentive. Oftentimes, the Urban Renewal Agency will discount a piece of property because we're selling it with a bunch of restrictions on it. Not necessarily restrictions, but things that we would like to have built on it. So that puts some restriction on the developer, and in order to get that to happen, you'll discount the property. The other idea is a land lease, and that lowers the development cost on a project, but the city still controls the property in perpetuity. And that also then generates income for the, which would be the general fund after the Urban Renewal Agency sunsets. But another important consideration of redeveloping of these properties is the additional funding it would provide to the agency. Currently, the 5-year projection of the agency identifies a number of projects that are not going to be able to be funded. If we were to start developing some of this property and some of these funds came back in, that would be one more revenue source in order to be able to fund some of the projects that have been anticipated. That concludes my remarks.
There is one other section or one other piece of property that we own, and that's the property that Moe's sits on. And that's a property where we lease the property to Moe's Corporation, and they pay us a wonderful lease. And that's been going on for quite a while. Just not too long ago, we renewed that lease, so it's there.
They've been a good tenant. But if they were to leave, we still have control of the property.
That's right.
Whereas if it was in private ownership and they left, then it may sit vacant.
And we keep the improvements as well.
Mr. Chairman, sorry.
Yes.
Kip.
Go ahead, Kip.
Mr. Olson, how does that area on 51st Street with Moe's, the parking, how does that parking, what type of parking arrangement do we have with Moe's?
We do have a parking arrangement. There are identified spaces for Moe's. They're mostly the ones that are right there in front of their, next to their building that are identified for them. That's never been an issue as far as striping them or painting them or identifying them. And then there's a couple more that are down further, but it's in the agreement on the parking spaces that would be identified for them.
How many spaces are they per month?
I'd have to guess there's 14, 15 or something.
Out of how many?
Oh, I don't know. On 51st Street?
Yeah, on the, when you go past the little restaurant, the fish and chip restaurant. Slip my mind for a minute. Eleanor's. Once you roll past that stop sign, you're kind of in the 51st Street parking arcade.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I looked at this agreement, but yeah, most of the stuff, as I remember, in the center of the street is just public parking in the middle of the street. One of the things that I could bring forth that relates to that parking is that the area just to the east of the restaurant is a plaza, and that used to be their parking lot. Their lease included that parking lot and the property that the building sits on. And when the TAF plan said that we'd like to create a plaza in that area, they were willing to negotiate and say, okay, well, you can use our parking lot for a plaza if you can identify parking for us for our restaurant. And so the parking that was there is because of that arrangement. Otherwise, the parking for their building would still be on that piece of property, on that lot.
Mr. Chairman, just a question. Kurt, these 4 properties you identified, are they all commercial zoned
They
or general commercial?
are, yes. I mean, they're not GC zone, no. You know, the Taft one is Taft Village
Right.
Core. Nelscott one is Nelscott Business District zoning, so.
But they don't have, they're not multifamily or residential or anything?
The same with Ocean Lake. I think it's the Ocean Lake multi-use business district.
Okay.
Can't we have mixed use on that, though?
Yes, I think it's required on all of them. Yeah.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I guess the question I would have is, here's 4 properties, at least 4, if not more, that are properties that are land banked. How do we quit talking about it and do something? Because, it's ripe for developers, a lot of, especially the 32nd Street. What a great time to, construction's done, almost done. How do we get these and all 4 of them on the market into a creative redevelopment opportunity? What do we need to do tomorrow?
Mr. Olson?
Okay. I think it's a matter of just directing staff that the agency's ready to do that, and we will put together a program that makes that happen. Well, we could lay out the steps that it's going to take and how we assume that will happen, and then you can tweak that if you wish.
I'm for it, Mr. Chairman, to move this ahead. I say that without knowing what our priorities are and what staff's priorities are. So with that reservation, because I'd hate to have something more important bump, but to me, this is one of those things that urban renewal was all about. It acquired properties. It now needs to turn them, and if we don't start now and get it going, it'll be long after you're retired.
Should we direct staff then to come forward with some kind of a program for the district?
I'm for it, but I'm one.
You want to make a motion to that effect?
I'd check the audience or the council if they're ready. Any objection? I'd make the motion that we ask staff, direct staff to at least these 4 that so mentioned, kind of a process. What's the process? Let's get it moving to redevelop these properties.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Ward.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Anderson, I'm not sure the 4 that you were talking about.
The 4 that he showed up here, there'd be the 15th, Northwest 15th, Northeast 1st, Southeast 32nd, and Southwest 51st. The 4 commercial properties that he highlighted, not the land banked ones at this point.
On 51st, are you talking about the old Hershey's
Right.
project?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Williams?
Oh, were you done, Kip?
Mr. Williams?
Okay, yeah, so, because we are running out of time here. I'm in favor, and I'll vote affirmative, but I am concerned that this was not an agenda item, that the public hasn't had a chance to say a word about this, and these are some major decisions that are coming up. I'm confident that most of the people I would represent would say that'd be fine, let's go ahead and do it. But I would just say, in the future, I'd be very uncomfortable moving forward with anything that wasn't presented as an agenda item for the public to comment on. And then also, could you provide us with a copy of what you've just shown us with your thoughts on each property that you shared?
Certainly.
I'd appreciate it.
Are you talking about the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay.
But I definitely want your comments that you brought along with it.
Okay.
Okay. I don't just want pictures of property.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Other discussion? Questions? If not, roll call.
Williams?
Yes.
Anderson?
Yes.
Norikis?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Sprague?
Yes.
Walke?
Yes.
And Ward?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Any agency member comments?
Mr. Chairman, I guess one other thing, since we're talking about land, and we brought up Southeast 32nd, I'm reminded that I think last agency meeting, this agency directed or offered up 32nd as a potential exchange land exchange. I would make a motion that we withdraw that from exchanged opportunity and keep it in this bundle of redevelopment.
Second.
Do you have a second?
Did.
Discussion?
I'm
Williams?
yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I'm sure it's a great idea, but I'm just a little confused, and I wouldn't be able to say, yeah, let's go ahead and do that tonight. I would need to maybe talk to some other people, you, and just, have we actually offered it to somebody at this point, or just put it out as an offer to exchange?
My understanding from the meeting is that we had it in as a number of properties that were potential for exchange. I'm just suggesting we pull it out.
A potential, but we don't have it actually offered
Right.
to somebody at this point. Okay, I just wouldn't want to, thank you.
Mr. Ward?
I don't think it was one of a few. I think it was two specifically that we had addressed, and that being one of the two. And I don't think that we've heard back definitively from the people that we proposed to, and until we do hear back, what's the harm in waiting unless we've just become fickle and have changed our mind? But we did get an appraisal on it. We have an investment, both sides do, and I think we owe it to hear back from the people that we made the offer.
Any other comments? We have a motion on the table. Let's have a roll call, please.
Anderson,
Yes.
Norikis,
Yes.
Ryan,
Yes.
Sprague,
Yes?
Walke,
Yes.
Ward,
No.
Williams.
No.
Motion carries.
Okay, any other agency comments? If not, we are adjourned, 4 minutes late.
Restroom break.
Yeah, let's take about a 5-minute break in between meetings, please.
Be aware that we will not be turning off the mics because they do take a few minutes to restart. So they're staying on. So if you're live,